Training camp is here. The preseason is next week. Let's go. Football is back, and you're watching it on the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara. The sickest Cleveland Browns podcast.
Cut back by Chubb. He's to the 10. He's still running to the 5. He dips outside left. He's going in. Touchdown. What a run. Nick Chubb.
It's going to be sick.
Hey, everybody. Andy McNamara with you. Oh, I'm pumped to be back. The Browns are finishing up at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. And the preseason, it's next week. The Hall of Fame game is next week. The Browns get that extra preseason game. That means we're one step closer to football. That means we're one step closer to September and this Browns season getting underway. Make sure you're following us on social media at SickPodBrowns on Twitter or X or whatever the hell it's called now, at AndyMC81, Instagram as well, at AndyMCSports. Follow along there, TikTok also, and click subscribe. Hey, we're right there. We got a whole bunch. We got the team shop. We got some betting stuff in the show description, so make sure you're checking that out. Click those notifications on and share this as well. Get your Browns questions in too. Fantasy football season is right around the corner also, so we're going to be getting into some fantasy football talk, some sports betting talk. Matt Humans from VSiN will stop on in a few minutes to go over some futures bets, some division. We'll go through some of the storylines around the AFC North and the NFL, notably a pretty serious, potentially serious injury to Joe Burrow. Not as serious as it could have been when he was carted off. That could affect the Browns week 1. So we'll get into that. Let's talk about the Browns training camp. Okay? Preseason, we're working our way back in. And it's been a slow ramp up for Kevin Stefanski. Very methodical, planned out. He's been upfront about it and has said, look, we're working the guys in. This is a retreat, bonding, whatever. They went, fishing and skeet shooting and touring a bunker in West Virginia, Cold War bunker. Sounds amazing. 100, 200-year-old golf course, whatever it might be. But they're getting work in, and the Friday pads individual drills. Saturday is going to be team pad drills to finish it off. Then they leave after a morning workout on Sunday. Some notables. Amari Cooper, after missing the whole week with a minor tweak, quote, minor tweak lower body injury, was back on Friday, easing his way in. Again, Amari Cooper doesn't need a training camp. Amari Cooper's fine, okay? Guys like Amari Cooper, Nick Chubb, they're fine. The guy who's really popping to me, folks, Elijah Moore. And we talked about it before we had the little summer hiatus. But Elijah Moore, the stock just keeps rising. I know it's against air, training camp, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. He's talking about the chemistry being built. Deshaun Watson's talking about the chemistry. You can see it on the field. On Thursday, there was a drill where he essentially broke the ankles of Denzel Ward, the double move, snatching the ball out of the air. And the extension, the route running. This is a guy, remember, folks, that the Browns got second-round pick, but they also got the Jets' third-round pick back. And he's someone who with something to prove. Rookie deal. Still ascending, 2 years left on that rookie deal, and wants to get the stink of the New York Jets organization off of him. This is a player where you have Amari Cooper obviously as the number one, but the variety that they're using Elijah Moore. I'm going to put my fantasy football hat on here for a sec as well. The variety that they're using him, where initially we were thinking, okay, well, it's Nick Chubb at running back, and then it would be Jerome Ford underneath. And while I think in running downs and for a breather, that's still technically true, it's different in that we're seeing Elijah Moore lined up in the backfield, doing sweeps, end arounds, flanking out of the backfield to catch passes, as well as lining up outside, inside. This is a true weapon that you can put anywhere. And so when I'm thinking of chemistry being built, what if an injury occurs to another receiver? And just somebody who can make an impact. Elijah Moore, I don't think is being talked about enough. When it comes to fantasy football, I'm looking at it right here. His average draft position, his ADP, is the 47th wide receiver taken overall, 114th overall in general. He's behind guys like Juju Smith-Schuster for the Patriots. I'm done with Juju, especially with Mac Jones. Stop it. Yeah, Mac Jones versus Deshaun Watson quarterback down. Come on. Quentin Johnson of the Chargers. Okay. Good for Justin Herbert getting paid. That's a contract. By the way, side note, where's everybody who dumping on the Deshaun Watson contract, still fully guaranteed, and none of these other contracts are, but the amount of money, and if you're a quarterback in the NFL, if you're a quarterback, you're getting that cash. If you're good, you're getting that money. Even if it's not officially guaranteed, you're getting that money. So we see big contracts for Justin Herbert being thrown around, Lamar Jackson. No one says boo. And they dump on the Browns for Deshaun Watson. Anyway, you have Elijah Moore behind guys, Quentin Johnson of the Chargers. Okay, Michael Thomas of the Saints. We haven't been able to trust Michael Thomas in fantasy football in like 3 years. Pass. Cortland Sutton of Denver. Maybe. Gabe Davis of Buffalo. Up and down. Maybe overall in the season could be better, but you're going to have roller coaster weeks there. Brandon Cooks in Dallas. Brandon Cooks, can he stay healthy? No, and he's ahead of guys like Odell Beckham Jr., obviously. But you put Elijah Moore in a PPR, points per reception format there. You put him in a PPR situation where the touches count. That's what I'm looking at, the touches, catches, handoffs, tosses, extended runs. Elijah Moore just keeps jumping off the page to me. He just keeps jumping off the page. So good news again, Amari Cooper back from the tweak, backup linebacker, out with a lower body injury, Adams. And people are just, it doesn't seem like it's not that strenuous yet. Hopefully everything is fine coming off of the individual padded practices Friday. And it goes to the first team padded practice on Saturday. So you have that, but really overall, it seems pretty smooth. One guy I am concerned with, folks, okay, when we're looking at the Browns depth chart here, and we'll get the official one before they play the Jets in the Hall of Fame game on Thursday, August 3rd, is if we're looking at DeJuan Jones out of Ohio State, draft pick from this year. Folks, I'm getting a little nervous. Love the pick, the size, former basketball player, the agility, the athleticism. The guy's 6'8". But my concern comes with these wind sprints, the discipline. This is a guy who's being yelled at by Bill Callahan in OTAs. He missed 2 days with an illness after running gassers and being completely blown up. Is this guy going to be in shape? Is this guy going to be able to be relied on as a backup? Because if someone goes down, you're relying on James Hudson and DeJuan Jones. Really? Right? A little bit of Drew Forbes, I guess, at guard. But otherwise, that's tough. If I'm Andrew Berry, who's had a phenomenal offseason, by all accounts, on paper, I'm looking for a veteran offensive tackle. Maybe that comes after cuts. Maybe that comes a little bit later on. But that's what I'm looking at. Right now, no surprises on the depth chart. Mari Cooper, number 1. Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, of course, at tight end. Marquise Goodwin, of course, since last we spoke, with blood clots. And we don't really know in lungs and legs. So very scary. Glad that was caught. Hopefully he'll be able to be back, because that's another guy who had that chemistry, was catching those bombs from Deshaun Watson. So we'll hopefully get him back and healthy. Anthony Schwartz was the other injured guy. Can we cut Schwartz already, folks? Come on. Come on. The guy can't stay healthy. He can't catch the ball. He's done. He's got to be done. Other news, of course, Joe Burrow. Scary moment for the Bengals. Carted off. It was a calf injury. And depending on the severity where you look at, you typically look, seems like the range 2, 3, 4 weeks if it's bad. Wyatt Teller, the Browns right guard, had a calf injury that kept him out about 4 weeks last year. So maybe around there. In any case, it looks like he is going to be the week 1 starter for the Bengals and be back and healthy if nothing else happens there, which is good news. Joe Burrow is one of the exciting quarterbacks. You don't wish ill on anybody, but if he had to miss a game, I wouldn't mind if it was week 1 versus the Browns. So Burrow out there, and the backup there, Trevor Siemian. I'd feel a lot better Trevor Siemian than Joe Burrow. Although Joe Burrow has only beaten the Browns once, remember, right? Most of those with Baker Mayfield, but the rest of the time, he hadn't been able to beat him outside of that one occasion last year. So we'll see as camp winds down. So they'll come back. The Browns will leave West Virginia, leave the Greenbrier on Sunday, come back to Berea, and then get cooking. They'll practice August 1st, day off, and then August 3rd is that Hall of Fame game. Also, across the board, we are not going to see any starters. If you wanted to see Aaron Rodgers versus Deshaun Watson on the Hall of Fame field, which I've been on, by the way, played flag football for the Fantasy Football Expo last year, which was tons of fun. If you're expecting that, you're going to be disappointed. No starters, not even Josh Dobbs' backup. We're going to be seeing Kellen Mond and DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie quarterback, share the duties in that opening exhibition game. And it looks like from different reports, the Browns will play. Now, the amount still unknown, but that Deshaun Watson and the first team units will play in the second game and the fourth game. The third is when they practice with Philadelphia all week. That's where they'll get the main reps in and don't want the starters really to get that extra exposure in the game. If you get significant time in for especially Deshaun Watson and the ones, game 2 and game 4, I'm fine with that. Because after that game 4, remember, you have 15 days off. You don't want too much of a time because otherwise you're going to be hung up. You're going to be more rust. Deshaun Watson needs more reps than anybody. Continue. You got to hit the ground fast this season. Fast. Bengals started 0-2 last year after Joe Burrow missed some time. It was with the appendicitis, the appendectomy, whatever. But they started 0-2. If you can catch the Bengals flat-footed, you go up that rare 1-0 for this Browns team. So very important. Overall, looking good. Deshaun Watson looking nice in practice. Not a lot of success in the red zone, but 7-on-7 drills. Well, we're not going to panic. We're going to see how that progresses as we go. Okay, so that's the Browns news. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at SickPodBrowns, at AndyMC81. Click follow. Any Browns questions, hit me up. Comments. How do you think the team's going to do this year? Do you like how the player distribution is going to be, the usage during the exhibition season? Let me know in the comments and on social media. Now, let's talk a little NFL betting. Let's talk some futures. Let's look ahead, because as the preseason goes, so does the betting. And I'm starting to salivate. I'm starting to feel that itch to say, let's get into some NFL betting, some NFL football. And we bring in Matt Humans from VSiN to talk about that and really dive in and take a look at things as we hear storylines and contract extensions and injuries come in throughout this NFL offseason. Matt, welcome. How are you?
Andy, good to be here today, man. I'm impressed that you actually played flag football on the Pro Football Hall of Fame field. Were you on the winning team?
It was a lot of fun. I will say this, the way the tournament was, Matt, you had four downs to try to get a first down. Our team went 4 and out. And that was it. No one got hurt, though.
Oh, that's it? Okay.
That was it.
Hey, the Browns
that
offense. The Browns offense did that too many times when Deshaun Watson was quarterback last year too.
Yes, we were emulating the Browns from last season. Yes, a heck of a time though. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for jumping on, and let's look at some future bets here. We're looking at the DraftKings Sportsbook when we look at division winners, and this is where, again, as we go from when those odds were first set to some injuries in training camp, and we look at the AFC North, the favorites. Bengals at plus 150, Ravens after that plus 220, Browns plus 380, and Steelers plus 425. Does that seem right to you? Or how are those numbers shaping out to you so far for winning the AFC North?
I think the betting market's got it right. But, again, where is there value in the AFC North? This is the toughest division in the NFL, most likely top to bottom. And I think it's equally tough to predict. The Bengals deserve to be the favorites. Of course, they won 8 in a row to finish last season to get to 12-4. Lamar Jackson's back. Ravens probably going to look like a little bit different team. Steelers had a great run at the end of the year. They're always going to be right there in contention, probably around an 8-9 or 9-8 type of team. Mm-hmm. And then how much better are the Browns going to be in Deshaun Watson's second go-round here? I think that's a mystery to pretty much everybody at this point. So I don't see much value in betting a division winner here. I think it's a very difficult division to predict.
I agree. They could cannibalize each other, especially the win totals, right? I think the Browns are at 9.5. Like you could have potentially, Matt, you could have a division winner win this thing with 10 games and only one team makes the playoffs despite all the talent.
Yeah, when you look at the win totals, Bengals are set at 11.5. I would actually lean under on that, even though I like the Bengals a lot this year. This is the first time in my life, Andy, I'm picking the Bengals to win the Super Bowl. I've never done this. I'm about 50 years old, so I'm picking the Bengals as a Super Bowl winner. I thought they should have beat the Chiefs in the playoffs last year. And really, Joe Burrow is knocking on the door you got to think at some point here he's going to knock it in. I think the Bengals have had a really good offseason. But having said that, that doesn't mean the Bengals are going to win 12 or 13 games, coming out of this division, because, like you said, cannibalizing each other is what I think these teams are probably going to do. Would it stun me if the Browns won the division? No, of course not. The Browns were 7-10 last year, but if you don't choke away that Week 2 game against the Jets, if you don't lose the game, I think maybe in Week 5 against the Chargers, should have won that game.
Yeah, against Atlanta at 2.
Yeah, losing to Atlanta. Then, late in the season, losing a home game to the Saints. There's just a lot of things. That 7-10 record could have easily been 10-7, but the Browns just didn't have their act together last year. Hopefully for their sake, it's a different story this time. Steelers are expecting a lot of growth out of Kenny Pickett, and I actually think the Steelers made some improvements in the offseason too. I like him a little bit better than most. And, the Lamar Jackson situation is going to be a 180 from what it was last year. So, man, this division is, I hate to throw a cliche out there, but it is tough as the $2 steak that often said, right? It's the toughest one in the league. And I think it's a little bit tougher than the AFC East, which looks pretty damn tough from top to bottom too. But the win total for the Ravens at 10, probably wouldn't touch that. Like I said, I lean under 11.5 on the Bengals. It's going to be tough to get to 12 wins coming out of here. I'm seeing the Browns at 9 at several spots in Vegas. I think that's probably set about right. The Browns should be at least a 9-win team. They could win 10. I'm not going to bet that win total. And then the Steelers, you've got an 8.5 or 9. I would not bet over. On the Steelers, but it's not going to surprise me if they get there either. So I would say Bengals are my pick to win the division, but this division is going to be, like you said, probably a traffic jam between the top 4, all 4 teams, and there's not going to be much separation here. And let's not forget, I heard you mention the Bengals started 0-2 last year. They were 4-4 until they won their final 8 games to get to 12 wins. So it took a long winning streak just to get to 12 last year. Of course, they had one game thrown out against the Bills late in the season. I thought the Bengals were going to win that one. So you could say they were going to be a 13-win team. But I think the Bengals win 11 or 12. It's tough to find much betting value in this division unless you have a lot of belief, a lot of conviction in one of these teams, overachieving as relative to the betting market.
Right. In conversation with Matt Youmans from VSiN. VSiN, the sports betting network, the first 24/7 broadcast network dedicated exclusively to sports betting. They deliver all the news and analysis sports fans need to inform their wagering decisions at VSiN.com. You can follow Matt on Twitter at MattYoumans247. All right, Matt. So we talk about how probably not much value, and it's a tough division, the AFC North. What's a division you like? What's a division, a team you see some value in? Because as good as, let's say, the AFC North is, I think you could go the other way with how bad, let's say, the NFC South is. I'm like, I don't want to touch that one either. Is there a division you like? You're like, okay, that number is kind of reaching me.
Yeah, you hit on something there, because I've heard, you listen to some of these sports talk shows or you watch them, and it seems like everyone's assuming the Saints are going to win the NFC South. And I'm not assuming that. I think the Falcons team we mentioned, they weren't very good last year. They were decent. But watch the Falcons. That could be a team on the rise in that division, because that's a bad division. What's Dennis Allen ever proven as a head coach? When was the last time Derek Carr got to the playoffs and won a game? In fact, if you watch the Raiders-Saints game in New Orleans last year, Derek Carr did not get the Raiders' offense past midfield. Okay? A lot of people tend to forget that. Raiders got shut out in that game, and they didn't get past midfield until the final 2 minutes with the backup quarterback. And now Derek Carr is going to ride in and be the savior for the Saints. Right. I'm not sure that's going to the Saints are a solid team. They deserve to be the favorites because all the other teams are unproven. The Buccaneers could be pretty bad. But watch out for Bryce Young and the Panthers. He's a smart quarterback who's not going to commit a lot of turnovers, not going to make a lot of mistakes to hurt his team. I think the Panthers are going to have a shot. But the Falcons, the wise guys are gravitating to the Falcons, I'll tell you that, as the cheap pick to win the NFC South. A little bit of value, a little bit more than 2-1 odds. And I do think the Saints are fragile favorites in the NFC South. In the AFC South, I want to hit on this one because I think the Jaguars are the most overrated team in the betting market in the NFL right now, because if you look at the Jags, at the end of last season, they had to win 5 games in a row just to get to 9-8 in a terrible division.
Yeah.
Playoffs. Week 18, as you know, they had to beat Joshua Dobbs, who was the starting quarterback for the Titans. And Tennessee
now back with the Browns.
Yeah. Tennessee probably should have won that game. Dobbs gets sacked, stripped. That turns the game. Jags win it, go to the playoffs. They trail the Chargers 27-0. And, of course, the Chargers do what only they can do. They choke off a 27-0 lead. But I'm not going to give the Jaguars too much credit for that late season 5-game win streak against mostly bad teams and bad quarterbacks to get to 9-8 in a bad division. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's assuming, well, the Jaguars are going to take the next step. They're going to be contenders. Trevor Lawrence is an elite quarterback. Well, okay, there's some exciting pieces, I think, on that offense. But, you know, you got to get past the skill position talent sometimes to look at what else is out there. The Jaguars got a lot of questions and potential problems on their offensive line. Their defensive line has a bunch of underachievers. Their secondary is soft, and they got a tougher schedule this year. So I think the Jags take a step back instead of the step ahead a lot of people think. And then if you rewind 2 years, which team was the number 1 seed in the AFC? Not many remember it was the Titans. So Mike Vrabel is a much better coach as an underdog. And I like this Tennessee pick even before the DeAndre Hopkins pickup, a week or two ago. I like the Titans more now, but I like them to win the division anyway. I bet the Titans at 4-1 odds, a plus 425 and plus 450. I bet it 3 times to win this division.
Really?
Well, they drafted Peter Skoronski from Northwestern, who I thought was the best run blocker in the draft. And that was a key draft pick, too, because I still think they're going to try to control the game on the ground with Derrick Henry in the rushing attack. But Ryan Tannehill's probably facing his last dance in Nashville, right? This is his contract year. He's got to put up numbers. Vrabel does not want to go with a rookie quarterback. He's going to go with Tannehill. Now you got Hopkins opposite Treylon Burks. I think you got more of a threat of the pass, which is going to help the running game. Titans had the number 1 run defense in the NFL last year. And I do think they've done some things to shore up the back end of that defense. Tennessee's a sleeper. That's my pick to win the AFC South. And essentially, I thought you were getting great value there because at 4-1 odds or plus 450, which is 9-2, you're talking about theoretically betting the second best team and watch the 2-team race. Colts not going to win the division, you wouldn't think, right? Texans not going to win that division. So it's Jaguars or Titans. So I like that Titans pick. I think that's one of the best value picks to win a division in the NFL. Interesting.
And you've bet that 3 times. Right now I'm seeing on the DraftKings Sportsbook plus 350 for the Titans. So Matt's bet it 3 times. You're convincing me, man. I'm looking at that. That's something I'm going to have to think about. I want to hit on this with you. We all heard the Sean Payton, a pipe bomb drop, it just burying Nathaniel Hackett, burying the team last year, essentially. You'd have to think the man is doing it for calculated purposes. Off the top, it just seems like this is not great. Maybe it's to distract from Russell Wilson, put the attention on him, whatever the case might be. You're obviously in a division with the Kansas City Chiefs. Tough. The Chargers, they'll choke away in the key moments, but they're tough. The Raiders, Where do the Broncos fit into this? I'm not even talking about the division, just maybe win totals, just overall. Like, what do you think of the Broncos with Sean Payton at the helm?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic about the Broncos. I do think they're going to probably take a step up. I mean, you can't get any worse than what they looked like last season. They got swept by the Raiders, and the Raiders finished 6-11, and they swept the Broncos. So Sean Payton did walk his comments back a little bit today. I don't know if you saw that press conference. He apologized, said he regretted it. Didn't mean to say all those negative things.
Too late.
Yeah, I know. He said
he
didn't mean to say all those negative things about other coaches, but hey, you said it, right? We know you were thinking it, and you just have to say it. You can't apologize about it. Apologize for it after the fact. But I think what he's also doing, standing up for his guy, right? He's trying to say, hey, Russell Wilson didn't deserve all the blame. There was a lot of BS going on around him, and he's just part of the process of trying to build up Russell Wilson's confidence and saying that this is going to be a new look offense, totally new operation, a new set of expectations and all of that stuff. Let's face it, Sean Payton's got a huge contract. He's got all the power. He's a little egomaniac. But he is probably going to turn things around in Denver, and I would expect the Broncos to be an 8-9 or 9-8 type of team this year, and the Raiders in the basement in the AFC West, which is, again, a year ago we were talking about how tough the AFC West was going to be when Russell Wilson got there, and of course he bombed in Denver, and the Raiders were bad. Derek Carr had a poor year. Chargers did win 10 games last year. I mean, if you look at the Chargers on paper, it seems every year you look at the Chargers on paper and say, wow, this team could be a sleeper. They could be a Super Bowl, and they never get there. But with Justin Herbert, who's 25-24 as a starter, I think he's got a much better supporting cast around him this year. And, with Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator, I expect the Chargers to throw the ball vertical more often. Last year was too much of a dink and dunk offense, and the offensive coordinator can make a big difference for Kellen Moore. So I do like the Chargers this year. And I do like the Broncos. The Raiders are the one team I think where the arrow is pointing down. But we'll see. Every year you think, okay, is this the year where a couple teams can close the gap on the Chiefs in the division? And it doesn't happen. The Chiefs have won the AFC West 7 straight years. Yeah. And I would not bet against it being 8, but I do think the Chargers and Broncos are going to give the Chiefs a challenge.
And last one for you here, Matt. While the AFC it's tough. We're going to see some good teams miss the playoffs from wild card. However, you flip that in the NFC, and boy, we talked about the NFC South. That's not scaring anybody. The NFC West has tons of question marks. The East, okay, the North is in transition. It looked like I want to try to go away from the Eagles being the obvious choice to get back to the Super Bowl, but I can't really find a path where that happens without injury. Can you?
No, it's difficult. So, Andy, last year I was doing a bunch of shows like this over the summer, and I was touting on every show I was touting the Philadelphia Eagles and Jalen Hurts, and that's no lie. I did this on VSiN several times last summer. I bet the Eagles over the run total of 8.5 and 9. I bet the Eagles plus 185 to win the division, and I thought Jalen Hurts was going to take a big step up because you got to do your homework on some of these players. And Nick Saban talked about Hurts being the hardest worker, he'd ever had at Alabama, and he's a coach's son. And you look at all these things, and his work ethic is off the charts. And I did think he improved his accuracy as a passer. And if you watched him in his last season at Oklahoma, I thought he took big leaps in terms of throwing the ball. And I thought that he was a guy who could take the next step last year. Okay, well, that happened, but now there's no betting value in the Eagles anymore because they're the favorites in the NFC, and I can't even find a team that I think can knock off the Eagles. The obvious choice a lot of people are going to point to is the San Francisco 49ers. But I don't like the 49ers as much as most. Okay, they lose Mike McGlinchey, offensive tackle, who's kind of the anchor of that line. He's going to be important. You lose DeMeco Ryans, your defensive coordinator. Okay, you can replace the defensive coordinator if you have the personnel. I just think the quarterback situation is going to still be a question mark. Brock Purdy is not Tom Brady yet. He played 5 games at the end of last season, stepped in at the right time, has a lot of weapons around him. All the momentum's going his way. Actually, I thought if you look at the opponents the 49ers played when Brock Purdy was quarterback, it set up perfectly for him. Okay, he hasn't really had to face much adversity yet, aside from the injury that happened in the playoffs. Kyle Shanahan, is it just me, Andy, or does he get a pass from the national media for a guy who played a big part in blowing 2 Super Bowls and an NFC Championship game, and also traded a pile of assets to trade up to the number 2 pick to get Trey Lance, who's not even his quarterback now 2 years later?
Yep. He's 3rd on the depth chart, Matt. He's behind Sam Darnold.
Right.
I can't believe that. You just think for aesthetics you put him 2nd. He's behind Sam Darnold. You're right. I think he does get a pass. And yeah, it's like, okay, so, well, Brock Purdy, fun story, but now you're not catching anybody off guard. That's the difference. Right. And I guess we could say the same thing a little bit, although I'm with you. I'm a total Jalen Hurts truther and believer for a while. He's not catching anybody by surprise either. But the question is, okay, that's fine, but I'm not scared of Jordan Love at all. Cowboys, I guess, could always pop as consistent, maybe, but like, I don't know. The Lions are plus 11. Lions are the fourth best bet right now, plus 1,100 to win the NFC. And I'm not picking the Lions. So I don't know where the heck you go.
No, you know what? I watched this video that was circulating on Twitter last night. I don't know if you saw it, about the Lions in their draft room when they were trading the number 6 pick. They were serious about taking Jahmyr Gibbs, running back from Alabama, at number 6. And they were nervous that if they traded the pick and moved down to 12, that somebody else was going to take Gibbs. And you really, if you think about that thought process in the Lions draft room, you got to wonder how sharp these guys are in terms of personnel. I mean, you're trading down to the 12 pick to take the number 2 running back on the board, and you're nervous that somebody else is going to jump up and take him. I don't know.
Right?
I don't think the Lions understand value on a draft board. And I question that whole organization anyway. I know that they're a chic pick again, team on the rise, a little bit like the Jaguars in the AFC, but
Right.
I've still got to see it to believe it in terms of taking that next step. I would say don't sleep on the Packers. That's a bad division. I think the Vikings are taking a big step back now. Jordan Love could be a bust. I don't believe in him to the extent that I did Jalen Hurts a year ago. And when I was doing all those shows last year, almost every host would say, "Oh, no, I don't like Jalen Hurts. I don't know about the Eagles. I don't like Hurts." Okay, well, if you say that about Jordan Love, I understand, because I'm not completely sold on Jordan Love either. But I do think when you look at what the Packers have done, talking about personnel, he's got a pretty good offensive line in front of him. They've done a great job in the last 2 drafts of taking 8 pass catchers, including wide receivers and tight ends. 8 of their last 9 first-round draft picks have been on the defensive side. They've got a lot of young talent on that defense. It's got some potential. Like the Browns, they need to improve the run defense dramatically. But if Jordan Love steps in and plays well, I think the Packers are going to be one of the top 3 running offenses in the NFL. You look at A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones and that power running attack. That's going to be the motor of the Green Bay offense. Jordan Love's just going to play off of that. That's another thing you got to like about the Browns and Packers and teams like that. They can run the ball so well. They're going to be right there. Because they both have good offensive lines too, talking about Cleveland and Green Bay. I think, that'll take some of the pressure off Jordan Love. And who knows, that Aaron Rodgers diva act, how that, permeated the locker room, and that might have been a big negative. I'm not going to say addition by subtraction, but I think with Rodgers out of the locker room and all those distractions removed, Packers might be surprisingly good. Maybe a 9-8 type of team that could challenge in that division. I'm just not completely sold on the Lions. It would not surprise me if you have a surprise winner in the NFC North. But as far as the NFC in general goes, I still like the Eagles. On paper, they got better. They did get better in the offseason. And I can't buy into the Cowboys. You mentioned it. Cowboys got a ton of talent. Again, it's a situation that looks great on paper, but are you buying Big Mike McCarthy as the play caller? That's another one I got to see it to believe it.
Yeah, absolutely not. No, I'm with you. It comes back to the Eagles, all things being equal. It looks like it's probably going to go that route. That's interesting. Packers plus 400 right now to win the NFC North. Matt, tell people where they can find you. This was great. Thank you.
Just go to vsin.com, vsin.com. We got a ton of betting content up there for the NFL. We got a preview magazine out. It's got previews and all sorts of futures picks and win total picks. And we put that out a few weeks ago. So I'm excited, Andy, because less than a week now, we got the Hall of Fame game and football's here.
Yes.
And, our entire world revolves around the football season. So we're past the slow days of the summer, and we're finally at football season.
That's right, man. It is here. Cannot wait. Matt, let's do this again soon. Thank you so much.
Okay, you bet. Thanks, man.
Thanks. There he goes, Matt Humans from VSiN. You can get him on Twitter at MattHumans247. Interesting pick with the Packers and I understand his point. It's not a sure thing. Guys, I got to be honest. I just can't believe in Jordan Love at all. At all. But if they can protect him with that running game, like Matt was saying, dink and dunk it, he might not look terrible, but I think it's a total wash. Lions are the favorite in that NFC North. Yeah, man, that division is funky because, you could say the Vikings plus 275, the Bears plus 400. That's just a transition stage. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun to see the Lions. I got nothing against the Lions there. Dan Campbell, Mr. Bite the Kneecaps. It's kind of fun. But when you're looking at it, here's one thing to keep an eye on. Matt mentioned the Atlanta Falcons, and this is a note at plus 215. The Panthers, I think, are going to get off to a nice start because Bryce Young will look good, but he's too small. He's going to get hurt, or he's going to get figured out because he's so small. Buccaneers, Baker, I love you, but if you don't beat out Kyle Trask, yikes, you're done. And even if you do, probably still kind of done. But the Falcons, their offense, listen to this. They're running, Arthur Smith is running this weird kind of like college system where it's almost positionless, where you'll have people lined up, obviously, at wide receiver, running back, tight end, but they'll flow. They'll move players in and out, and they have committees and this and Kyle Pitts outside, inside, and you have Desmond Ridder. And I look back at my draft notes coming out of the draft a couple years ago. Guy got sky-high marks on his smarts, intelligence, maturity. It's got the size. Everything's there. I think Desmond Ridder could surprise. One more fantasy thing. In two QB leagues, I'm not saying I want to rely on Desmond Ridder, but he can move. And if I'm late and I got one guy and I'm waiting, I'm looking at other, like if Brock Purdy's there or, Baker or whoever, pick your guy. I would take a flyer on Desmond Ridder in a 2 QB league. I might even in 1 QB leagues take him as a backup. My strategy, I always like to have in 1 QB leagues a backup quarterback and a backup tight end, just so I have the bye week coverage at 2 of the most of the trickier positions. Might be looking at Desmond Ridder there with the leg potential for him to run. That's a sneaky pick. So don't sleep necessarily on the Falcons fantasy wise or on the betting side. And for the Browns, why not? Plus 380. Let's go. AFC North. Bengals, they're great. But Joe Burrow got hurt. I still don't believe in Lamar Jackson. Hopefully Odell Beckham Jr. blows them up internally like he did with Cleveland. And the Steelers, baby hand Kenny Pickett. They will always be tough with the defense and Mike Tomlin. They'll always be, you got to respect that. They'll always be, they're like the Patriots now. Don't have a great quarterback. To be 500, they're always going to be a tough out. But why not the Browns? And I take 9 wins to get to 10. I think that's a great play. That's a pretty smart play. I think for the Browns to get more than 9 wins. It's going to be a tough division. Plus 380 for the Browns. I take it. And maybe with the win total, at least at the 9, you can go that way. All right, folks, there you go. Preseason next week. We get to watch NFL football on Thursday, August 3rd. That's real. That's coming. That's here. Fantasy football previews, more betting talk, and of course, all the Browns goodness that you can swallow coming up on the show as we go. Make sure to keep an eye on those YouTube shorts. Follow us on YouTube and the show, the program, Twitter, Instagram at SickPodBrowns, at Andy MC Sports on Instagram, at Andy MC81 on Twitter. Click below in the show description. You'll see our merch shop. Lots of fun gear there. You'll see our betting links that you can go and get some great sign-up bonuses as well. So check those out. Click the notifications. Football next week. Thanks to Matt Humans. I'm Andy McNamara. You've been watching the Sick Podcast. Go Browns!
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Andy McNamara on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.